Hello, Sublation Media viewers, listeners, and readers. This week's Critical Cuts video will take a look at the downfall of Kanye West, examine his comments, and try to understand why Kanye, or Ye, is so confused and lost. We'll also consider why America's culture industry appears to delight in this sort of confusion. But before I begin, I want to say at the outset that while I support the Jewish people and oppose anti-Semitism, the reaction to Kanye has exposed that while Hollywood and the media aren't controlled by some supposedly homogeneous and coherent entity known as the Jews, it does operate within an ideology propagated by the Democratic Party and so-called progressive liberalism.
I'm standing up and I'm telling you I am Warhol.
I think Warhol is probably one of the most visionary artists of our time.
Did you know him?
No, I never met Andy Warhol.
I used to. I thought he was one of the stupidest people I'd ever met in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because he had nothing to say.
Let's start by examining a couple of Kanye's outrageous comments. On second thought, let's skip that. It's sufficient to say that they were outrageous, bewildering, and infantile. Okay, I'll give you one example. On October 9th, Kanye apparently tweeted that he was going to go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people.
Go to DEFCON 2.
I feel a heightened connection with the universe when I'm ramping up. It's like a sprained brain. I feel like you avoided this album title.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't
what it says right here on the
I hate
title.
being bipolar. It's awesome.
Yo, Caleb, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time. One of the best videos of all time.
One thing is very clear. Kanye West is mentally ill, and he is currently in the thrall of a manic episode. It's easy to spot the symptoms, and if you can think back over the last decade, you'll realize you've seen this kind of behavior before.
Your anger and your hate, I think, is coming off as erratic to people.
My passion. It's all passion.
Your passion is coming off as erratic
right.
to people.
Well, you borrow my brain for 5 seconds and just be like, dude, can't handle it. Unplug this bastard. Yeah, because it fires in a way that is, I don't know, maybe not from this particular terrestrial realm.
Some are saying that you're bipolar.
Wow, what does that mean?
I guess that, you're on two ends of the spectrum.
Wow. And then what? What's the cure? Medicine? Make me like them? Not going to happen. I'm winning. I win here and I win there. Now what?
Along with the Oedipus complex and the dividing up of the human psyche into the id, ego, and superego, one of Freud's major contributions to the field of psychology was his observation that the line between normal and abnormal mental states is exceedingly thin. In his 1901 book, The Psychopathology of Everyday Life, Freud explored a variety of examples of rather mundane mental errors or failures, including the forgetting of proper names, the use of the wrong words in casual conversation, for instance, referring to DEFCON rather than DEFCON, our tendency to remember mundane trivia rather than things of significance, and other types of forgetfulness, accidents, and incidents that seem to be left to mere chance but were, according to Freud, unconsciously motivated. With this in mind, we can start to understand why celebrities like Kanye and Charlie Sheen capture the collective imagination during their manic phases, and understand why we can't look away from the car crash that they make of their lives and fame. According to Peter Michelson, a clinical psychotherapist in Ann Arbor, bipolar disorder is an example of a psychic dynamic at work in nearly everyone. The key is the relationship between what's called inner passivity and the superego. In 2014, he wrote, "Our passivity can be understood as the lingering effect of infantile helplessness. This inner passivity lingers in the unconscious mind, and this unconscious part of our ego battles ineffectively and defensively on a daily basis against our harsh superego or inner critic. In a bipolar patient, the manic phase and its display of pseudo-power, hyperactivity, and inappropriate aggression is an unconscious reaction to inner passivity. This reaction also serves as a psychological defense against one's recognition of the deep emotional identification or resonance with inner passivity." End quote. Keeping these psychoanalytic notions in mind, we can trace a commonality between Kanye's episodes of megalomania and paranoia and the normal public's reaction. For instance, here are some of the reactions to Kanye's anti-Semitic rants that strike me as manic overreactions that exhibit a collective difficulty with inner passivity.
There was a really disturbing scene captured on the 405 freeway that's making the rounds on social media and causing a lot of pain for the Jewish community. Let's show it to you. This sign, which read "Kanye's right about the Jews," hung from an overpass this weekend. Rabbi Mentz tells us how one of his congregants woke up this morning to get the morning paper, but instead found a flyer on his property denouncing Jews.
When he came out 6 in the morning to get his paper, this is what he finds right here. I think most people never met a Jew, never sat down and had a cup of coffee with a Jew, never really became close to a Jew and recognized they're normal, good people.
Thanks, Hap. You know, I'm especially glad to have our next guest with us, Mr. Morton Rose. Hope that seat's all right. I'm not sure what you're used to. Welcome very, very, very much, Morton. I guess it was just our luck that you were stopped today as you were driving through town, and it was the police chief's idea, and a pretty good one, I think, in fact, to have you on the show because, well, it occurred to him that many Fernwooders or Fernwoodians or Fernies, whatever they're calling themselves these days, have actually never seen a real live Jew before, and I think as your troubled, though very nice people know, it's just this kind of, I don't know, ignorance that often breeds contempt and prejudice and stereotyping, and I think we can help stop some of that by just letting them see you and see what you're all about.
That's true, Both, yes.
Yeah, and I think it's a service to let people know that you actually are, which I say, harmless and just like everyone else. And I think right now we can put an end to a stereotype because, as you can see, he's completely normal looking. You look just like the rest of us. It's as plain as the nose on your face.
According to the LA Times, Kanye's public ravings have elicited the quick abandonment of the First Amendment and the principle that thinking and talking are activities that should not be suppressed. The LA County District Attorney General, responding to a demonstration on a highway overpass that featured both Nazi salutes and the unfurling of a sign that read "Kanye was right about the Jews," told the Times, quote, "We cannot tolerate the hashtag anti-Semitism that was on display on an LA freeway. Hashtag white supremacy is a societal cancer that must be excised. This message is dangerous and cannot be normalized." And LAPD Chief Michael Moore promised to aggressively investigate a series of flyer drops in Beverly Hills. Police Chief Moore informed the Times that the police had video footage of a van believed to be used in the leaflet drop, and he promised to pursue every avenue to identify and prosecute individuals involved in the anti-Semitic attacks. To be clear, the anti-Semitic attacks Moore is referring to were nothing other than the printing and distribution of flyers. This article that claims that Kanye's public statements during the manic episode have created a dangerous climate in Los Angeles goes on to quote the online media influencer Leora Rez, whose website documents examples of anti-Semitic graffiti, supposed anti-Semitic statements from celebrities, and anti-Semitic incidents. One such incident in Brooklyn involved an Orthodox Jewish woman and her son. The two of them were shot by a slatterball gel bead blaster.
So don't forget to wear your face mask when you go out because, I don't know, just wear your face mask.
The 3 men arrested at the scene were charged with aggravated harassment, criminal possession of a weapon, assault, and assault as a hate crime.
Quiet!
Are gel blasters dangerous? According to gelblaster.com, not very. The Gel Blaster website says the pellets are soft and squishy, but they do travel up to 170 FPS, meaning they will sting a bit when they hit you. We recommend wearing long sleeves and pants when playing to negate some of that sting, especially for smaller children, and always wear protective eyewear. Along with highlighting ambiguous examples of hate crimes, Rez doles out an Anti-Semite of the Week award on her blog. For example, Naveem Aish, a member of the American Muslims for Palestine and a fundraiser for Cori Bush, received a fictional award. Naveem is a university student who has tweeted egregious anti-Semitic statements in the past. The point of including her on the website seems to be to help undermine squad member Cori Bush. Kanye has provided an excuse for the LA Times to drop journalistic standards, run quotes from experts that appear to be residing, if not in the same disturbed neighborhood as Kanye, then in an adjacent suburb, and report on the police's determination to prosecute people for writing and printing the wrong ideas without mentioning how such prosecutions would violate the suspect's civil rights. Kanye has created an hysterical moral panic, leading influencers, journalists, and politicians to turn into credulous dupes of whoever decides to capitalize on the moment.
I just read, granted in the New York Post, and then I had to verify it in other publications, but about how 9 different law groups at UC Berkeley have created Jewish-free zones, meaning no Zionist speakers. And that really scares me. It's scary for obvious reasons. And it's scary because these are progressive groups. And I know how they see this. They hear about Palestine and the occupation and that, this terrible never-ending occupation, and without any other facts or knowledge, conflate Jews with the Israeli government.
This story of Jew-free zones at UC Berkeley is a hoax. In reality, student activists aiming at ending Israel's apartheid-style policies towards Palestinians had demanded that Zionists, meaning advocates for Israel's campaign against the Palestinians, apologists for the brutality of the continued occupation in the West Bank and Gaza, should not be invited to speak on campus. While this attempt to deplatform right-wing advocates for Israeli policy might be misguided, it hardly amounts to segregation or the creation of Jew-free zones.
The way I feel like when people try to tell me what to do, I feel like they're touching my brain. Like, for a woman, she doesn't want she wants to be in control of her body and choose who she wants to give it to. Like, people on social media, people trying to control us and say that we make us all monolithic thought, and they're trying to control our mind. They're trying to control my mind. And when someone tries to tell me what to do, tries to tell me what I can wear and not wear, I feel like they're touching my brain. Imagine you cut your skull open and somebody touch your brain with their hand.
While Kanye's troubles are hardly similar to the troubles of ordinary working-class people, his delusions are a reflection of the concerns of the public at large. Deindustrialization, the destruction of the family, precarious employment, corrupt corporations, sanctimonious politicians, and the cynical use of scare tactics and other manipulations to enforce a culture of conformity all create a climate that is just right for paranoid reaction, a climate that is the perfect breeding ground for anti-Semitic movements and attitudes.
I've argued that anti-Semitism understands capital's global dynamic in terms of a global, invisible Jewish conspiracy. This suggests that the anti-Semitic struggle against the Jews can be understood as an attempt to overcome processes of ongoing historical change that seem to be beyond the control of people.
Genocide and population control that black people are in today in America that is promoted by the music and the media.
Having misrecognized history as constituted by capital, in agentive terms, that is, the Jews, anti-Semitism seeks to conquer that history through the assertion of another agency. The struggle against capital becomes cast as a world historical struggle of two different kinds of will. One operates abstractly, is intangible and fundamentally inhuman, that is, the Jews. The other is concrete, tangible, and in terms of its own self-understanding, authentically human.
If we are serious about stopping the spread of anti-Semitism, if we want to create conditions wherein Kanye's ravings will gain no traction and have no effect, rather than treat his statements as a great threat, we should recognize the real conditions that give rise to this sort of socialism of fools. If we want to stop anti-Semitism, we'll need to start addressing and begin to overcome the problems of capitalism. We'll need to start to aim at overcoming capital itself. And that means that we'll have to examine the failures of our previous efforts to create socialism. And that's why in the weeks to come, we'll be publishing essays about the Cultural Revolution in China, examining the work of Paul Cockshott, reconsidering and discovering the limits of Marxist humanism, and generally starting the project of sublating the left all over again from the start. If you enjoyed this conversation, please do consider supporting us on Patreon. Our patrons help to make sure that Sublation Media can continue to provide interviews, videos, books, and articles that are critical of the left from the left. If you are tired of remaining stuck within bourgeois ideologies and politics, help us sublate them both.